Britain's housing market is sitting on a secret that could destroy millions of lives, and the government doesn't want you to know about it. Because while politicians promise recovery and stability, behind closed doors, the Bank of England is preparing for something that hasn't happened since the 1990s. A complete housing market collapse that will leave 8.5 million people trapped in a nightmare they can't escape from. What you're about to discover isn't in the mainstream headlines yet. The banks know it's coming, the Treasury knows it's coming. And now, leaked documents and insider meetings reveal exactly why 2025 will be the year Britain's property market finally breaks. The numbers are so shocking that when mortgage advisors see them, they're telling their own families to prepare for the worst. And here's the terrifying part: it's already started. If you own property, rent, or dream of buying a home in the UK, you need to hear this. So hit that like button and subscribe to stay ahead of the economic storm that's about to hit Britain. Because what happens next will affect every single person in this country. Right now, 1.6 million British households are sitting on a financial bomb that's about to explode. These aren't risky borrowers or people who overstretched. They're regular families who did everything right, got their fixed-rate mortgages when rates were low, and now face monthly payment increases that will destroy them financially. The average household coming off a 2-year fix from 2023 will see their payments jump by £500 per month, not per year, per month. That's £6,000 a year vanishing from family budgets overnight. But the real nightmare starts when you look at who's affected. NHS workers who bought modest homes are now choosing between mortgage payments and heating. Teachers who stretched to buy in catchment areas face losing everything. And the banks? They're not waiting for disaster, they're preparing for it. Internal documents from major lenders show they're already stress testing for default rates not seen since Black Wednesday. Mortgage advisors at high street banks are being trained on distressed borrower protocols, while publicly claiming everything's fine. The numbers get worse when you dig deeper. Those lucky enough to remortgage are being offered rates that make their properties unaffordable. A family that borrowed £250,000 at 1.5% now faces 6.5% if they're lucky. Their £1,050 monthly payment becomes £1,750. And that's assuming they qualify. Because here's what nobody's telling you. Banks are secretly tightening criteria so much that 40% of existing borrowers wouldn't qualify for their own mortgages today. Meanwhile, the rental market has turned into something resembling Victorian England, except worse, because at least the Victorians built houses. The abolition of Section 21 no-fault evictions was supposed to protect tenants, but instead, it's triggered the largest landlord exodus in British history. Since the announcement, 42,000 landlords have already sold up and fled the market. Another 120,000 are planning their exit in the next 12 months. And who's replacing them? Not your local property investor who might actually care about maintaining the building. Instead, massive corporations backed by international investment funds are swooping in, buying entire portfolios at discount prices from desperate sellers. These faceless companies view tenants as numbers on spreadsheets, maximising every penny of profit while providing the absolute minimum legally required. The result? Rents have exploded 9.1% in just 1 year, but that average hides the real horror stories. In Manchester, families report 40% increases overnight. In Bristol, professionals earning £40,000 can't afford one-bedroom flats. London has become a joke. £2,500 for a studio where you can touch both walls at once. And the competition for any decent rental is insane. Viewing appointments look like Black Friday sales, with 50 people queuing for properties that wouldn't have attracted 5 viewers 2 years ago. Tenants are now offering 6 months upfront, bidding wars over monthly rent, and some are even offering to do their own maintenance just to secure a roof. One letting agent in Birmingham told me they received 400 applications for a 2-bedroom house in 48 hours. The lucky winner paid 3 months advance, 6 months deposit, and agreed to £200 above asking price. This isn't a housing market anymore, it's survival of the richest. Foreign investment in UK property hasn't just slowed, it's collapsed so dramatically that entire developments sit empty while British families sleep in cars. Chinese investment, once the lifeblood of London's luxury market, has plummeted 78% since 2021. Middle Eastern buyers who once competed for Mayfair mansions have pivoted entirely to Dubai and Singapore, taking £12 billion in property investment with them. Walk through Nine Elms, Canary Wharf, or any of London's regeneration zones at night, and you'll see the ghost towers. Hundreds of luxury flats, lights off, nobody home. These weren't built for living in, they were built as safety deposit boxes for international wealth. Now they sit empty while rough sleeping in the same boroughs has increased 34%. The symbolism is grotesque. Empty towers surrounded by tent cities. The government's response? Complete denial. They point to foreign buyer stamp duty surcharges as protecting British buyers, but those surcharges just pushed international money elsewhere, taking jobs, construction projects, and economic activity with them. Estate agents specialising in international sales have seen their businesses destroyed. Luxury developers have shelved projects worth billions. And the knock-on effect travels down the entire market, because when the top freezes, everything below starts to crack. But perhaps nothing exposes Britain's housing disaster more starkly than the council housing catastrophe unfolding in every city and town. The waiting list has hit 1.3 million households. Not people, households. Behind each number is a family trapped in temporary accommodation, sofa surfing, or worse. Birmingham alone has 23,000 households waiting. Manchester has 15,000. These aren't statistics. They're British families living in bed and breakfasts, costing councils £1.7 billion per year. The Right to Buy scheme, once Thatcher's flagship policy, has become a wealth transfer mechanism that's decimating social housing stock. For every council home sold, only 1/3 gets replaced. The rest, gone forever from social housing, often ending up as private rentals charging 3 times what the council charged. Councils, desperate for cash, are selling entire estates to private developers who promise mixed communities but deliver luxury flats with a token gesture of affordable units that nobody earning under £50,000 could actually afford. The hidden homelessness epidemic makes official figures look like fantasy. Councils have become experts at making problems disappear through creative categorisation. Not officially homeless if you're sofa surfing. Not priority need if you're a single adult without children. Not counted at all if you've given up asking for help. Charities estimate real homelessness is 3 times official figures. Food banks report users listing housing costs as their primary reason for needing help. Teachers report pupils doing homework in cars because that's where their family sleeps. The construction industry, supposedly the solution to the housing crisis, is collapsing faster than the buildings some cowboys throw up. In 2024 alone, major builders have gone bust weekly. 40% fewer homes are being built compared to government targets. The firm's still standing face materials cost 35% higher than pre-2020, skilled worker shortages that Brexit made permanent, and planning permission battles that can take years and cost millions. Small builders who once built communities have been crushed by regulation and costs. Large developers have shifted to land banking, sitting on permissions worth billions, waiting for government handouts or market conditions that may never return. Meanwhile, the quality of what does get built has become a national scandal. New builds with walls so thin you can hear neighbours breathing. Estates with no shops, schools or surgeries. Rabbit hutches marketed as executive homes at prices that would have bought mansions a generation ago. The demographics behind this disaster read like a dystopian novel. Millennials, now in their 40s, have been permanently priced out of areas their parents bought easily on single incomes. The average first-time buyer age has hit 34, but that's skewed by the lucky few with wealthy parents. Strip out parental help and it's closer to never. Gen Z have already given up. Surveys show most don't even consider home ownership a realistic goal. They're planning lives around permanent renting in a market that treats them like cattle. Meanwhile, boomers who want to downsize can't because there's nowhere to go. Retirement properties cost more than family homes. Their equity is trapped in houses too expensive for their children but perfect for international investors or cash-rich corporations. The result? A complete breakdown in the property ladder. Nobody can move up because nobody can get on. Nobody can move down because smaller doesn't mean cheaper anymore. The entire system has seized up like an engine without oil. This demographic disaster feeds directly into Britain's birth rate collapse. Young couples are delaying children because they can't afford homes with space for them. Those who do have children face impossible choices: stay in inadequate housing or move so far from work that commuting costs destroy any savings. The birth rate has crashed to 1.49 per woman, well below replacement level. Housing costs are literally preventing the next generation from being born. So what happens when all these pressure points meet? The Treasury knows, the Bank of England knows, and their private modelling shows something that should terrify everyone. We're heading for a correction that could wipe 30 to 40% of property values while simultaneously making homes even less affordable for regular buyers. Because when prices crash, cash buyers and corporations feast while regular buyers can't get mortgages at any price. The timeline is accelerating. By March 2025, the first wave of mass mortgage defaults begins. By summer, panic selling meets corporate buying. By autumn, the government faces a choice: massive intervention or social collapse. We're talking about potential emergency measures not seen since wartime, mortgage holidays, rental freezes, even discussion of property requisition powers for councils. The political pressure will be unlike anything since the poll tax riots. International examples show what's coming. Ireland's property crash destroyed a generation's wealth. Japan's bubble created economic zombies that still shamble through Tokyo. But Britain's crisis has a unique poison. We're not just facing price collapse, but simultaneous rental explosion, construction collapse, and demographic implosion. It's the perfect storm, and we're sailing straight into it with a government that won't even admit it's raining. Britain's housing market isn't experiencing a crisis, it's experiencing multiple crises simultaneously crashing into each other at velocity that makes 2008 look like a practice run. You've got mortgage prisoners facing execution, renters being bled dry by corporate landlords, councils abandoning their legal duties, construction grinding to a halt, foreign investment fleeing, and an entire generation locked out permanently. When historians write about this period, they'll wonder how anyone claimed they didn't see it coming. The banks are preparing for mass defaults. The government is modelling emergency interventions. The only people who don't know what's about to happen are the British public, and that's exactly how those in power want it. Because when this bomb explodes, they'll already be in their bunkers, while regular families face the devastation. If you found this video valuable, subscribe now, because next week I'm exposing the secret government meetings where they're planning for social unrest when the housing market finally collapses. You need to know what they're not telling you.